Good evening. I am Saad Al-Aziz, the owner and head instructor of Semper Fortis Jitsu here in San Antonio, Texas. And I'm here with my Pitbull Baylor, who is my trusty friend, and he just loves to lay on the couch and chill out with me. So this will be our third video in our Pitbull series. I'm sorry it's taken me so long to make this video. I think it's been like 3 weeks since my last video. I meant to make one every week, but as those of you who know me know that I've been competing and training for the Master World Jiu-Jitsu Championships that happened just a couple weeks ago, and that had been my main focus of effort, in addition, to like running my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. So I haven't been able to do one of these videos in a minute, and so sorry about that, but I'm gonna try to get back to doing one a week. So this is the third one. This video I'm gonna talk about a couple different tests to do on your dogs that will help you in, raising and living with your dog to better understand them. So the first test, and I talked about it last week, was a DNA test, identifying what the dog is, or what different dog breeds make up your dog. Some people will say, "Oh, just go with what the breeder tells you," and that's almost like breeders are about as trustworthy as car salesmen. I do not recommend on just going with the breeder's word. I recommend doing a DNA test to just find out like what exactly makes up this dog. I did the Royal Canin test on Baylor, and one of the comments was the Royal Canin test came back identifying Baylor as 100% American Staffordshire Terrier. And the commenter said, well, the only true pit bull is the American Pit Bull Terrier, although most people agree the American Staffordshire Terrier, American Pit Bull Terrier, Staffordshire Terrier, American Bulldog are usually considered the four breeds that are oftentimes labeled as pit bulls, sometimes band dogs, but opinions vary on almost everything. So, but the deal with doing the DNA test through Royal Canin is Royal Canin does it through an AKC standard, and they recognize the AKC breeds. So had Baylor been, say, 25% Cane Corso and, maybe 25% Presa Canario, and then 50% American Staffordshire Terrier, it would have come back and identified those three breeds as part of his genetic makeup, where it came back showing that Baylor, his parents, his grandparents, they were all considered 100% American Staffordshire Terrier. And so the controversy on the American Staffordshire Terrier and the American Pit Bull Terrier is people say, well, it's two different breeds. And generally, breeders say it's two different breeds. American Kennel Club only recognizes the American Staffordshire Terrier and does not recognize the American Pit Bull Terrier. And there are other dog organizations that do, but the main one is the American Kennel Club, and they do not. So the Royal Canin DNA test, whether your breeder told you your dog was an American Staffordshire Terrier or an American Pit Bull Terrier, if you do the Royal Canin test on your dog, it will come back as 100% American Staffordshire Terrier because it doesn't recognize an American Pit Bull Terrier. And then the deal with the American Staffordshire Terrier is, even the breeders agree, it came from the same dog lineage, which most people say came from a famous dog breeder named John Colby and his dog Primo. And they say Primo was, the father of who was one of the pit bulls that Colby had, became the father of the American Staffordshire Terrier. The breeders say they was bred on two different lineages from that point on, although no other dog breed was mixed in with the American Staffordshire Terrier. So it's the same dog, but apparently supposedly, they was bred along different lines. And, like one of the comments is, oh, an American Pit Bull Terrier is much more game than American Staffordshire Terrier. And really, I don't care about the gameness. And what gameness is, for those people that aren't familiar, is just a willingness to fight and not quit. So it's like a fighter. So a dog that will be put in a dog pit, and even if it's losing, will continue to fight and fight to the death, even though it knows it's not going to win. It has reached the point it's so damaged, so injured, or just outmatched that it's not going to win, but will continue to fight. A dog that is not game once it starts not going well for it, will try to flee or retreat from the fight. And so these breeders say, well, no, the American Pit Bull Terrier, they whittle out the dogs that don't have gameness in them and only breed the dogs that have gameness. And so that the American Pit Bull Terrier is, although genetically the same as the American Staffordshire Terrier, is bred to be a fighting dog, where the American Staffordshire Terrier is now bred to be a show dog. And it just all sounds like nonsense to me, because if they're genetically the same dog, they're the same dog. And not every American Pit Bull Terrier is game, because some of them don't want to fight. And those dogs, these breeders generally do not breed anymore. So if a male is not game, they will not breed him anymore. And in many cases, according to the books that I have read, will kill the dog if he's not game, which is pretty damn despicable. I wish every time we caught one of these pit bull rings, they would get professional fighters like me or other professional MMA fighters and martial artists, and put one of these pit bull dog fighting men in the ring with one of us, and then they could have their pit bulls on the outside of the ring cheering them on, and then we'd see how game these pit bull fighters, these pit bull fighting men or women are, you know. And I suspect they're not game at all. Their dogs are game. And, you know, when you read about how they talk about themselves, they sound like really tough guys, but I suspect they're not so tough. And I think they're pretty damn despicable. So that's all I'm going to say about these pit bull dog fighters. But back to the Royal Canin test. So if you have a pit bull and you take them down to a Royal Canin test, which my vet does the Royal Canin test. I'm sure there's other DNA testing groups. But as far as Royal Canin is concerned, the two dogs are identical in DNA, so they will be identified as American Staffordshire Terrier. And since Baylor is a rescue dog, like I would, you know, it's not like I could talk to his breeder or something to say, hey, you know, where'd this dog come from? So that's the deal with the DNA test. If you do a DNA test to find out what's in your dog, that's what's going to come back. It's going to come back as an American Staffordshire Terrier, regardless of what your breeder says. And I recommend doing the DNA test because, you know, breeders are a lot like car salesmen. You know, I'm sure there's some honest ones out there, but there's a lot of liars. And they'll tell you the story that's in their best interest. And you know, there's so many stories of people that thought they was buying a particular breed of dog, and then as the dog grows, they can see that, no, this dog is mixed with something else, you know, and they paid their hard-earned money for a dog, you know, whether you thought you was getting a pit bull or whether you thought you was getting a Cane Corso or Labrador Retriever or whatever else you thought it was going to be. And then you find out, no, you know, this dog is not 100% what this breeder told me it was. And, you know, that's just unfortunate, and it's just a reality of the dog breeding world. So it's something to be aware of. The other test I recommend doing is I did the 5 strands test. I'm sure there's other testing you can do. And what it was the 5 strand test just required me to like shave some of Baylor's hair off and send it off in a bag. And when the test came back, it told me what all things Baylor was allergic to. You know, for instance, like I suspected Baylor was allergic to chicken because he was getting these, he was constantly licking his paws, and he would, you know, sometimes he'd get rashes. And I noticed it was worse anytime I gave him a dog food that had chicken as the primary ingredient. So I suspected he was allergic to it. So I sent off and did the test, and they came back with all kinds of things that he was allergic to. Not just food, but also environmental things like grass and weeds that he was allergic to. And so what that test helped me do was go find a dog food that he wouldn't be allergic to. And that cured his skin allergies and his constant paw licking, because, you know, I was unwittingly giving him food that, you know, he was allergic to. And turned out not only he was allergic to chicken, but he was allergic to salmon. He was allergic to venison, alligator, a couple other fish. So it was really hard. Turkey he's allergic to, and a number of grains he's allergic to. So I had to find dog food that one was grain free, and then also didn't have chicken in it, which was tough because I would go. Some brands would list it as, you know, like beef dog food or wild boar dog food. But as you look at the ingredients on the back of the dog food, you would see things like chicken meal. And it's like, well, it doesn't say this is a chicken dog food. It's supposed to be a beef dog food, but it's got chicken in it because it's just a cheap dog filler. Or, you know, we'd have corn in it or, you know, some garbage. So finally I found a dog food brand that was specific for his allergies. And so this 5 strands DNA test helped me with that. To be a dog food that so I could get a dog food that he wouldn't be allergic to. And realized that there was certain, you know, like weeds in my yard that I had to make sure I killed, you know, because he was allergic to certain things. And so that was really helpful in what to feed him. And it became really hard because there was certain things he was allergic to that, you know, as I started to read the ingredients, not only of dog foods, but of dog treats, dental treats, stuff like that, you know, like it was just causing his allergies to act up. So it became a real adventure to find foods that he could eat. And, you know, like they'll always tell you, like, don't feed your dogs table foods, you know. But in his case, that would even be worse because many of the things that were common ingredients in table foods, he would be allergic to. So I'm going to wrap that up for this week's video because I don't want any of the videos to be too long because I don't want it to be like some long enduring thing that you're watching. But that's the main things that I wanted to talk about was this week is DNA test. Just realize when you do the test, it's going to help you identify what's in your dog, you know, what breeds make up your dog. And, you know, so like I would do a DNA test, like say if like a buddy of mine, I think he spent like $2,500 on a Cane Corso. I would do a DNA test because you know where the breeder is. And if that DNA test came back saying it's not 100% Cane Corso, I'd be coming back for my money. I'd want to still keep the dog, but be like, no, you're going to give me a refund on your money because I'm going to put the word out on what you did. Which is one of the reasons it's more recommended, you know, or at least in many cases safer to go with AKC registered breeders because, you know, there's a required document history that they have to, you know, provide. Not that you want to resell or even breed your dog, but if you go through an AKC breeder, there's a less chance of fraud than if you go through some backyard breeder, you know, like through Craigslist or, you know, that's selling you some dogs because dog breeding is not an easy thing. You know, I don't want to go too deep into it on this video, but just realize that, you know, there's a lot of fraud in the dog breeding world. So I would encourage DNA testing, especially if you're spending a lot of money on these dogs. And when it comes to pit bulls, I would encourage you not to go through any breeder because dog shelters are full of pit bulls. And adopt one because if you don't adopt them, they're going to be killed. And these dogs are wonderful and they make great family dogs. I highly recommend them. And as I said in my first video, I've had all kinds of different dog breeds, but by far my favorite dog breed, the best dog breed I've ever had is the pit bull. So not that I'm recommending everybody get one because most people that I know don't deserve to have a pit bull. It's like, but if you're going to get one from a shelter, save a dog, and you will truly be saving that dog's life. So rescue a dog. Don't go through these backyard breeders because I don't want to encourage these backyard breeders to do what they're doing. All right, that's all for this week. I have got to find Baylor and get ready to go for our nightly walk. Thank you guys so much. And until next week, I'll come up with my next video. As always, if there's any questions or comments, feel free to fire below. Whatever your questions or comments, agreements, disagreements are, and I'll do my best to address them in next week's video or talk about more on the history. All right, ciao.